Hey, everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. Another edition of Off the Top Rope. We need to talk about Double or Nothing. This is going to be the 6-year anniversary of AEW's first show, and it's the first time that they're not doing it in Las Vegas. They're doing it in Phoenix this year. We're 10 days out of the show at the time of this recording, and there are 4 officially announced matches. There's 5, but we don't really know what Anarchy in the Arena is going to look like. The 4 officially announced matches, 2 of which are Owen Hart Cup tournament finals that were made a couple of weeks ago. Then you've got, spoiler alert, Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes ended up winning that number 1 contenders match on Collision that was taped. So if you watch Collision, I'm sorry, but let's be real, not a lot of people do watch Collision. So the Hurt Syndicate are going to face Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara for the AEW World Tag Team title. And Timeless Tony Storm is going to defend the Women's World Championship against Mina Shirakawa. We all know how that's going to go. Tony Storm, credit to her for, taking a pin on kind of a fluke to just give her something to do, and not have her just sit on the sidelines through Double or Nothing while they determine who's going to face the Women's World Champion, which is very clearly going to be Tony Storm. So let's just get that out of the way. But that's your card 10 days out of a pay-per-view. A pay-per-view that is supposed to mean so much to this company. And then you got a thrown together Anarchy in the Arena match that is random as shit. You're still trying to figure out if the women are going to be involved. Swerve Strickland's teaming up with the Ops, Will Hobbs. And it's going to be that's kind of thrown together on that side. We couldn't figure out if Mark Briscoe, his Speedball Mike Bailey, was hanging out there. And then Gabe Kidd from New Japan Pro Wrestling just shows up and helps Jon Moxley retain the championship and seemingly, I guess, joins the Death Riders. I don't know. But there's got to be way more. And this is not the first time that this has happened with a pay-per-view. This is not the first time where they have had difficulty in between shows of trying to get matches on the show and booked and, to make it, at least fill out a pay-per-view card. And like I said, this is not the first time. And I don't understand why it has to be so difficult, because years back when they only had 4 or 5 pay-per-views, they did a much better job on week-to-week television of, getting you to what the pay-per-view matches were going to be and telling these stories. Now they've added multiple pay-per-views to the calendar, and yet here we are 10 days out at the time of this recording. And here we don't know what the hell half of this card is going to look like, or even if there's going to be any other matches added. I would presume that the Don Callis family, seemingly that they've been involved in this show, that they may be put on this. Like, I don't know what you can do 10 days out of a show when your world champion's going to be in Anarchy in the Arena. Your Continental champion is going to be in that match. Your international champion is going to be in that match. So, and then trios champions are going to be, literally all of your champions are in the one Anarchy in the Arena match. So that just tells me, hey, you're being incredibly lazy. And I understand on some level, okay, it's a stipulation that sticks and is kind of like, been the banner event of AEW, and specifically at Double or Nothing. They've done either Stadium Stampede or Anarchy in the Arena. Here's my problem, and I'll even criticize WWE for this. We have become too ingrained and too we seem to be so locked in on when these events are going to happen. Like, we know, I love Money in the Bank. The fact that it has its own show, even though it feels like a big deal, Money in the Bank should be at WrestleMania. I think that was a mistake. Making Hell in a Cell its own show, making Elimination Chamber its own pay-per-view, that was a mistake. Like, you need to make these matches feel like exclusive and feel like they are needed. They are actually needed for a specific reason. Royal Rumble is different. The Royal Rumble's been around for longer than I've been alive. And it's always been like the concept that is determined and it sets up something. Like, listen, if you want to do the Owen Hart Cup tournament every single year to determine who faces the world champion All In, that's totally fine. I think that's actually a great concept. But when you consistently do this anarchy in the arena and you just throw a bunch of random people together, like you throw the Young Bucks, you throw the Death Riders, you throw Gabe Kidd, like it makes it feel like a lesser thing. And when this is getting thrown together off of a world championship match in the most random way possible, less than 2 weeks before a show, that makes me feel less interested in this. Are there going to be a bunch of cool spots in this? Absolutely. I mean, for God's sake, we lit a guy on fire and we hung Darby Allin upside down. I thought it was a little bit over the line, but it was kind of like a cartoon and a popcorn flick. And you know what? That entertains some of the sickos of AEW. So on some level, I understand why, you want to do this match. But at that point, it just becomes violence for the sake of violence. At least give me a story that you're going to have. All they're doing here is they are interjecting a bunch of different stories, like the Young Bucks and Swerve. They're interjecting that. Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada, they're interjecting that. Death Riders being involved, like running roughshod. But it's just like you have so many just random pieces that are just, thrown together. This is more random than last year's. At least, and last year's wasn't great either. It was just a thrown together bunch of misfits for Team AEW, led by Bryan Danielson in his final year, taking on, the Elite. And Jack Perry was there. So it's just, I look at this and I look the build of this pay-per-view, and then I, like I said, I stacked up pretty much all of your champions are in that match, every single one of them. And then the other two champions on this show, Mercedes Moné is in the Owen Hart Cup Women's Final, so the TBS title is not being defended. Tony Storm's getting put in a thrown together match, which, admittedly, hey, cool, Mina Shirakawa's got a match, but they got to stop, if they're going to get people over, they can't just keep giving them world title matches right off the bat. So that's a problem. And then you go to the Anarchy in the Arena match itself, world champions in there, trios champions are in there. The tag team championships are going to be defended on the show, but international champion, continental champion, virtually every, major player is going to be involved in that Anarchy in the Arena match. And it's like, it's fine, but it doesn't feel like it matters because there's no real story. It's just all these people have been trying to shut down the Death Riders. And it's just, and then you throw in something like Gabe Kidd, and the further I get away from that, I just don't have a whole lot of optimism that it's going to mean anything. So for a show that 6 years ago started this whole operation off with a bang in Vegas, and now they're in a small arena in Phoenix, and you're not, and basically you're running the same stipulation match that you've been running for basically the last 4 years. And there's no real heat to this at all. So I'm not 100% optimistic about this show. And Dynasty wasn't great. Looking at this card, I don't know how they're going to fill this out. Tony Khan likes to stack a bunch of matches in there. Maybe there's a TNT title defense from Adam Cole. I don't know where that fits. Maybe FTR is good. I think FTR might end up facing Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia. Sure. But guys, this is supposed to feel like a big time show, and it feels very thrown together and very forced. And when you're doing that type of stuff, especially for a show that to day one, people like me who have, rooted for this place and have just gotten really disillusioned with it, it just feels kind of insulting. So I hope that they probably will deliver at least a compelling show, and specifically the match at the end is going to be interesting. And like those Owen Hart Cup tournament matches are going to be spectacular. And that Hangman, if it were me personally, I would main event with Hangman and Ospreay. That's what I would do. I would not main event with Anarchy in the Arena, even as, big of a deal and as big of a match as there is. Hangman and Ospreay is, to me, the most important match on this show because it's very unpredictable. Nobody knows how it's going to shake out. The stakes are at an all-time high. These are two of the biggest names that you've got, at least on the babyface side, and you're determining who's going to challenge for the world title at your biggest show. So that's just me, but what the hell do I know? I'm just an idiot. I'm just an idiot in my house broadcasting that you guys fucking hate. So anyway, thanks so much for watching here. Appreciate everybody who subscribed. Love you guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.